Today we're talking about the sixth commandment. One of the trick of how I like to remember that what the sixth commandment is six kind of sounds like sex. And so that's how we remember the sixth commandment. In Exodus 20, God says to Moses, in order to get these onto the tablets and give this commandment to the people, is thou shalt not commit adultery, which is a command really indicating how God has given us this gift of sex and how it's meant to be used. That God created man and woman to be united, to become one flesh in marriage, and that gift of marriage and that gift of sex and sexuality is meant to be expressed within that context. That's a part of God's design. And so when a husband and wife are married, they're meant to be married for a lifetime. And when husband and wife are married, they're not meant to go outside of their marriage for sexual fulfillment, that God has actually created it in that way. Now, Jesus actually talks about this commandment too. In the book of Matthew, chapter 5, he says, "You've heard it said, you shall not commit adultery." And then he says, "But I say to you, even a man who lusts after another woman has committed adultery with her in his own heart." And so for Jesus actually takes this commandment to another level in order to really teach us that the commandment of adultery is not just about the physical things we do. It's not just about did you or did you not have sex. That's not the goal of the command. The goal that Jesus wants to get after is that there is a purity of heart, a purity of our mind. And so even the things we think about, the things that we look at, are connected to whether or not we are being faithful to God in this command. And God has this command because it's what he believes is actually best for us. And God knows us and our world better than even we know it. And so he says, I want you to be faithful in your mind, in your thoughts, in your actions, all of those, to honor God when it comes to the gift of sexuality, which means, yes, it means we don't have sex before marriage. That the way God has given us this gift, that he has given it to us, so we wait till we are married, till we say I do. It means that the things that we look at on the internet, it means when you're on Instagram and you're scrolling through, it means even the way you talk about the opposite sex, that in all of these things we honor and treat people a certain way, a way that treats them with dignity and also honors who God says we are and how we are to live as his creatures. Now, one of the ways I think when we talk about this, there are three tendencies of how we categorize sex, and those categories will really be God, gross, or gift. The third one obviously being the way that God created it, but I want to start with those other two because those I think are ways that we can tend to look at it. Maybe for a lot of you probably fit into this category of, all right, I feel like sex is gross. I don't want to talk about it with my parents. Like, I don't want to have that conversation. I don't want my parents. When I was growing up, I actually remember the way my parents had the sex talk with me, specifically my mom, and she would have this conversation. Well, God made boys and girls different, and they fit together in a very special way. I think I'm still traumatized by that conversation. So this is my way of actually making you be traumatized by watching this with your parents and having a similar conversation. You're welcome. But for many of you, while you watch this, even it's like I don't want to talk about these things. I don't want to think about these things. Maybe depend on your age or your experience. Maybe you just rather play sports and you don't want to think about those things. Even a lot of times in church, that can generally be the experience. Some people will experience growing up in church and hearing, well, we should wait until we're married just means that sex is bad. When the reality is the Bible doesn't teach that sex is bad. The Bible teaches it's good. It is a gift. It's not gross. God created our sexuality. So being attracted to the opposite sex, having thoughts about wanting to be with the opposite sex, all of those things are a way that God has created and designed us as human beings. Now, the other category that some of us might experience is the category that sex is God, meaning that's ultimate, that sex and sexuality define who we are, that's the most important thing about us, that a lot of people will even say that what defines you as a human being is who you want to sleep with, when in reality God says there are way more important things than your sexuality and your sex life that define you. There are way more important things. Yet culture will tell us that sex is the most important thing. It's the most important thing to talk about. It's the most important desire that you have. And again, that twists and that misses the point of what God has given us. And so that third category is the one that I want you to hold on to, that sex is a gift. And with any gift, there is a good way to use the gift and a wrong way to use the gift. And so knowing that God has given us this gift of sex and our sexuality, that God has made it and it is good. God didn't make Adam and Eve and then find himself surprised that their parts worked that way. Like, God knew it would work that way. But God gave it to us, and he also gave us some instructions saying this is the best possible way to use the gift. And so for us, we can say, nope, we don't talk about it, we don't want to have it, we don't want that, and put it in this gross category, and then eventually one day you have to deal with the consequences of that. Or you put it in this category where it's God, it's everything, and then we have to deal with the consequences of that and what that means for you and who you are. Or you say, all right, this is important, this is a big deal, how do I use and honor this gift in a way that honors myself, in a way that honors my future spouse, in a way that honors God?